Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Jackie. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Miles. I'm great. And yourself?
Hey, I am great. I'd like to welcome our guests to, again, another section of Let's Talk About It. Before we begin, of course, we'll do introductions for the new folk who are on tonight. Of course, the rest of you all know Jackie and I very well. I'm Dr. Willie Miles. I'm the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation, located, yes, in Atlanta, Georgia.
And I'm Jacqueline Hampton Clements, an educator located here in South Florida.
Hey, great. Hey, Jackie, what's been happening in South Florida? Anything interesting?
Well, we're still continuing our conversations about children and students in mask. And so we did have an announcement that it was optional for children to wear masks. It was still strongly suggested, but they wouldn't be turned away. And aside from that, we're just dealing with some, rainy weather and looking forward to cooler days.
Probably as the country's aware, we have the mayoral race here in Atlanta with past Mayor Kasim Reed and Felicia Moore, who is the president of the council, and it looks like there's going to be a runoff. However, there are about 12 other candidates that are running. Of course, the rule is that you get more than 50%, of course, you declare it winner. But with that many people running, of course, that would not be a 50% tonight. Also in Georgia, it's very interesting, is that is the new voting laws, which impact which there's a belief that impacts many people of color's vote. Again, this is a very low election, for lack of better words, a low attendance. So they're sort of like giving it a run, but we're gonna see what happens. Again, we never know. But Jackie, other than that, things are great here in Atlanta. The weather's getting very, very cool. We are experiencing the fall. I know you guys are just jealous.
We are. And, when you mentioned elections, it did remind me, we also have an election going on today, a special election to replace long-term the late Alcee Hastings.
Wow.
So that is going on. There are, I think, 10, 12, 13 people in that race. So we are very anxious to see the outcome here.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, but a lot of good things are happening, and I guess the greatest thing is that we're still alive in the midst of the COVID, COVID virus, and
we're still here. Yes,
very proud to say I got my booster a couple of weeks ago, and I'm through that little illness, but I am great. I'm feeling great, and I know you're doing good also.
I am. I'm still waiting to get that booster, hoping to get it soon. But other than that, feeling great.
Well, Jackie, I hope that people are really considering donating to us, and I don't hate asking, because the point is that, we're a community organization and we belong to the community, and the community ought to want to support us. We're here every week just giving you great information, and this is something we don't have to do, but we do it out of commitment, so we're going to ask you all to consider giving us a minimum of $25 for the holidays, for the Thanksgiving holidays. What Jackie and I are planning on doing here in Atlanta is making sure that families who don't have food. I know y'all say, oh, guess what? If they don't have food, they can get food stamps. So let me just tell you, everyone doesn't get food stamps. So the whole point of the matter is,
usually those who need it most, but
right. Don't worry about what people are getting. What you do is do what's on your heart. And we're going to ask you to give to us. Your donations are tax deductible. And Jack, I may ask for it next week. But again, we're asking for a minimum of $25. If you ain't got but $5, we'll take it. But I'm sharing with you, if you ain't got but $5, you can go and keep that, because you probably need it yourself. All right, so
Dr. Miles, sometimes I think maybe people don't understand, the purpose for donations. Obviously, we're going to continue to have conversations, but the foundation is more than just a podcast and a chat and conversations. The foundation is providing support, and we're looking to expand that. That's why we mention it every week. We do want to grow it, and we want to grow it in a way that allows us to give where it's most needed. We could go out like other people, we could write grants and do all of that, but that would really take us away from the work that we do. So we hope that you will find it in your heart, find it in your purpose. I'm going to change that. Find it in your sense of purpose to contribute. I mean, you're listening to this. We hope that it's serving you. Just as you're listening and it's providing information from you, you have to know that there are other needs out there. And we really target ourselves to meet those unmet needs, right? So we hope that you will join us in that and give as much as you possibly can, but certainly go on there and start making contributions, and tell your friends. If you've ever, felt that giving never gets to the places it needs to get to, we can assure you that we get to those places.
Well, it's amazing thing. People see us on Instagram. Hey, I ain't giving them nothing because the Instagram is free. You're absolutely right. But we have people working in the background that we have to pay. For instance, for
Those
all
flyers aren't free.
For all the announcements, you get the graphics, the emails. That stuff costs. Now, we are not saying we can't handle it because I'm out of pocket. I come out of pocket. Jackie comes out of pocket to make sure these things take place. And that's the reason we're so blessed and we're never in need. But again, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask the community to give to this community organization. Because at the end of the day, we're a 501c3. It does not belong to Jackie. It does not belong to me. It belongs to you, the public. And that's why we're so committed to making sure we do these broadcasts every week. But Jackie, what's so
and Dr. Miles, I have to add this because this was just put on my heart too. Giving is not for the one you give to. Giving is something you do for yourself.
Right.
Just as we do these broadcasts because we feel the need and we feel rejuvenated for it, and we feel driven, and we feel that we are given to when we give. The opportunity to give is something for the giver. And so we're giving you an opportunity to get off the status quo. And I feel like everybody gives somewhere, Dr. Miles. I really do. I feel like they're giving somewhere. And we're saying this is a unique situation. It is a 501c3. So, and I wanted to say, it takes time to get that. So in setting this up again, it's not just a podcast. Dr. Miles took the time to set this organization up to make it a 501c3 so that any and everything that you would give would be deductible, so that it's a win-win for you. But I'm urging you right now to give from the gift of giving, all right? As we enter this holiday season, as we are in the month of gratitude and Thanksgiving, give for that reason.
What's so amazing about, before we start this broadcast, I always want to talk about something else. But before I go there, I gotta see my friends on here. It's about to go the year out of North Carolina, a young man who actually specializes in making men's suits. So for him to take time out of his day and traveling, I'm honored. Also, I want to thank B12 who's on. Thank you for being on so much, but we appreciate you. And I see on Facebook, I see Candace is on. Hi, Candace. I'm so glad you took time out of your driving or whatever you're doing to watch us tonight. And we have many others who are going to log on with us. Now, I know those who are on saying, wait a minute, get to the topic. But see, that's why we are self-supporting, because if we were not self-supporting, we have to worry about what we say, how we say it, and that sounds like being in bondage to me. So what we like doing is to say what we want to say and the things we want to say, which are the truth. But Jackie, before I get into the topic, I was laying in bed this morning, and what I was thinking about, Jackie, was why are people so angry in Atlanta?
One moment, because I'm also joining Facebook. So let me do
Jackie,
this. Go ahead.
We had 3 murders within 15 minutes in different parts of Atlanta, and they're not connected. And guess why people were murdered, were killed?
Right.
They were killed over an argument in all 3 situations. So I'm saying, why are people so angry? Well, that's another topic we're going to talk about another day. Why are people so angry, and why are people just killing people? Today, we had a team walk up to another team at the bus stop, shoot the kid in the head. We had a team walk up.
Go ahead.
So the question is, what's causing all this, Jackie? We're going to talk about it.
And I have to jump in here. I'm sorry, but that, I hope our listeners understand all of these things are a big part of why we're doing what we're doing. Our message is a simple one. There's a lot of unhealed issues, unaddressed issues. We approach everything from the position of a child, hoping that child grows up to be a healthy adult. Okay. But these things, Dr. Miles, when you say, why are they happening? Let's keep it real. There's some unmet need, unmet healing, unmet mental and or physical issues out there driving this. Whether it's someone who never grew up emotionally or someone who feels that, taking is the way, these conversations are all part of that, of preventing that.
Well, Jackie, as you're aware, our audience is not aware, but our topics are really already chosen and outlined to April next year, 2022. We have the topics for each week. But when these kind of things start happening, I kind of want to switch those things around. Let's do some real things that are happening real time. And I'm sure we'll put some things up in the next week or so to deal with this anger and this rage that as a community we have, and where's it coming from? Because those people belong to families.
Right, and let's realize that they didn't start 10 minutes before the crime was committed.
Exactly.
Okay, so when you hear us talking about children, and when you hear us talking about the parental impact on children, or the impact of not having needs met, the impact of not dealing with trauma, right? That's why these conversations are so important. We cannot keep having a repeat of these things in our community, chalk it up to that they just bad. No one is born bad. No one is born that way. So somehow we're getting that way. It's rampant in all communities, but obviously acute sometimes in other communities of people who look like us.
You know, it's kind of interesting that I'm getting some questions. I said, Dr. Miles, why do you keep talking about this sex stuff? And why do you keep talking about these youth and sex? And many of you know that I'm in practice. I'm a therapist. And I kind of like bring topics I deal with. And Jackie, even though we've had this topic before, I am telling you and our audience, it's an issue that we have to address from the form of talking to parents about talking to their children about sex. I'm talking real,
and not even talking to your children about sex, understanding a normal sexual development in your children, to me is what the topic is about tonight. Right? Well, understanding what normal sexual development looks like, because it is the determinant of that sometimes that is causing the issue. So I've got a parent who doesn't know, and therefore is kind of stunting and traumatizing a child.
But you know, one thing I'm trying to do to my what's normal, abnormal, but I think I know what you're talking about. You know, I want parents to be comfortable in having the conversation. And I'm not talking about a highly scientific conversation. I'm talking about real talk conversation. And the reason I brought this topic up, because I'm dealing with this, Jackie, on a daily basis with young men who have no idea, and parents, whether it's mom or dad, have not had the conversation. I mean, these kids don't even know the function of body parts and what happens when they do certain things to body parts. And it's both boys and girls. So Jackie, let's talk about it tonight. Let's talk about this teen sex, this real talk. But before we do that, let's set up some framework. Let's set the backdrop for, who's having sex? Are these kids really having sex? Jackie?
Yes, and what you need to know is they're having sex so much sooner than you think they are. 16, 17 used to be the age, 20, 30 years ago? Those numbers dropped a decade and a half ago, 2 decades ago. I remember clearly in 2009 when I was informed through a national organization that I was behind, and that, children were having sex and intimate relationships as early as 9, 10, and 11. So yes, they are. And we have to be informed, and we have to be parents, educators, and leaders. We can't leave our children out there on their own because this topic is viewed as taboo. And that's what's happening. We don't think of leaving them alone academically. We don't think of leaving them alone like physically. Like, we don't put 9-year-olds in a house and say, you live over there and I'm gonna live over here.
Some parents do leave them alone academically.
Well, true that. But so why do we think that, well, sexually, I can just avoid this topic with my child until they're 18, 19, or 20? That's where we're running into the issue.
They're not avoiding to have a conversation to 18, 19, and 20. They are not having the conversation. They're not having the conversation. And they think the kids are going to learn stuff by osmosis. and what happens?
They are learning through osmosis, but they're learning the wrong thing.
And they're learning it the wrong way.
Yeah, and it's causing harm. And it's causing harm. That's what they need to know. It does cause harm when your child doesn't get the right information. And let's not pretend it doesn't. It's harming
to the child and to the person they're involved with.
And it can be lifelong harm. Yeah. Because it can be a lifelong mindset, right? About something that is natural, physiological, biological, it's natural. But if you don't learn that at an early age, you will spend a lifetime fighting it and not knowing how to respond.
But what do I what do I mean by real talk? And what I mean by real talk is having a candid conversation that's very relaxed. The real talk is call the body parts whatever name that is relevant to the day's times. You know, calling your penis a peewee and a sausage and a corn hop and all that kind of foolishness. Guess what? The kids think they're on a farm.
Stop. Please.
I'm talking about making things relevant.
I mean, first of all, that should help the parents who are uncomfortable, because that's what they are. It's a vagina, it's a penis, and therefore you don't have to disguise it.
If I was a parent, you know, I'd ask them, like, what do you call your penis? What do young people call it? Because whatever y'all call it, I'm gonna call it that tonight, so we make sure that we're on the same page. What do y'all call the vagina? And I'm not gonna be trying to judge them like, oh, well, that ain't appropriate. No, whatever they call it, I'm gonna call it, because the whole point is that I'm educating, and I want
connect. Yeah.
And it's not just understanding from a point of view of the sex. It's talking about the whole emotional piece before the sex. It's talking about the prevention. It's talking about like the consequences. So it's a full array of things.
And it's also that we're going to get into. It's also talking about the beauty of it. It's talking about when it's appropriate. It's talking about how what role it plays in a healthy relationship. You know, but let's give them some data in case they're still just not taking our words on this, Dr. Miles. Let's just go from the data here, okay?
Okay.
We're talking 2017, so now we're already, 5 years? 5 years into that, 4 years into this, okay? According to CDC.
Jackie, before you begin, I want to say this. It's 2017. That was the earliest data available. Now, if this was going on in 2017, it's 2021. So, it's been exacerbated. Okay, you can go on.
That's what I was saying when I said, this was even then. The CDC, according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, an estimated 55% of male and female teens have had sexual intercourse by the age of 18, and approximately 80% of teens, guys, do you understand that's 8 out of 10? 8 out of 10 teens use some form of contraception at first sex, okay? So more than half are having sex before 18. So those of you who are waiting on that 18, and certainly those of you waiting on that 21 to have the talk, you are way late, okay?
You're late, yeah.
Among teen females, 15 to 19. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second before I even give you this. If they had sex at 15, they've been thinking about it since they were 12 or 13, okay? So,
Jackie, hey, Jackie, hold for a second. I want you to interject at that point. It's not just interesting. We had a situation just a day before yesterday, and we got down the data. We have an 11-year-old girl who asked an 11-year-old boy, can his mother drop him off to a skating rink or something? So what happened is that the little boy said, I can't go. The little girl went. The girl then came back and texted him. Now, this is the 11-year-old who says, I'm going to fuck your brains out when I see you. Now, that's an 11-year-old. And so the question is, you're going to wait till 15?
Right.
And like, where's she?
And you know something? I really hope that any and everyone on this, even if you're not the one that needs information, please reach out to the other people you know who have, pre-teenagers and young children. Anybody with children 5 and older, please reach out and just say, hey, I was listening to something. I really think you just need to know this because I know you have kids that are really young, okay?
Stay on the data, but I want to mention, just 2 weeks ago, before then, we talked about kids admitting, who are now 15, admitting that they were watching porn at age 5.
Right. Don't get me started on how they get access to that via these telephones.
Which is another story.
That we put in their hands. Please topic. Don't. Okay.
But what is that? I think we're sort of like justifying that we start early.
And the point here also for everyone, share with those who need this. Once they've gone, you can't come back. Right. Once their eyes have been exposed, you can't unexpose. So we have to be having Jackie, real talk.
are you then saying if they have sex, they're gonna want some more, right?
I mean, I'm not
Let's
saying
let's
that.
do real,
That's
real
probably the
talk.
reality. But what I'm saying is, you can't think that your 5-year-old is going to go back to being an
Right.
unexposed 5-year-old. Do not kid yourself. They have seen it. They are now curious. They have questions. First
And
of
it
all, we need to
continues.
talk about some of we need to talk about the fact that, sexual urges are natural.
It continues.
So, right, they're
Mhm.
in you. They're part of us, right? We can be reading up on babies and understanding it. So my point is, I know people still have the mindset that we want to protect children and keep them unexposed until a quote unquote certain time. But that's not really happening for any child that has a cell phone. And of course, children have cell phones in their hand as early as 2. And if you don't think that they can accidentally be exposed, just try typing any of their favorite words and get any letter wrong. And I guarantee you, not 7 out of 10 times, something inappropriate is going to pop up, because those trying to reach them know what they're looking for, know they can mistype a letter, and it's all very close. So
Let's move
get
this.
over it. They're exposed.
Let's move this thing out about trying to protect our children versus trying to educate our children.
Yes, let's replace that. So I'm going to give you these facts now. This 15 to 19, okay? So that means these conversations started a while back. Among teen females aged 15 to 19, 42% have had sex. Okay? That's at least 4 out of every 10. 15 to 19.
Jackie, that's misinterpretation there. It is 42% had never had sex. So its percentage is higher.
Oh, 42% had ever had sex.
Right.
So you're saying that the 58% have had sex.
Yes.
Okay, got you. So yes, a misread on that. So that means 58% of females, okay? Because that's another thing. We tend to expect our young men to be sexually active because, again, that's how society has orientated us, to expect the boys but not the girls.
But check
over that.
Check this out. Look what the data says, though. The data says it was 58%, but guess what? It's 60%. It says 60% of boys, male sex, had ever had sex, So that's 40%, right?
Right.
So that begs the question.
Well, they're saying 60% of the males had sex at some point. Have they ever had sex? And they're saying yes.
So 58% girls have, and 40% of boys haven't. It's kind of interesting.
Exactly. Yes, it is. Males between 15 and 24 years of age, 20% indicated that they had had sexual intercourse by the age of 15. Okay? And do not fool yourself to think that all these 15-year-olds are with grown people. So they're with other children.
But Jackie, think about this. Think about this as we're talking about this. Now, this is data from 2017.
Before they were stuck home with COVID.
So here we are now. We can just surmise that, bring up another 2 points, just a 2%. But I'm saying it's significant.
Which I'm sure is very conservative, because we know that every year that children have more access to technology, they have more access to sexually explicit information, they have more access to each other. Let's just be real and simple with that, okay?
So for those who just came on, we as Jackie Clemens and Dr. Miles here, we're talking about real talk, teen sex. All right?
And Dr. Miles, you just brought up something that now the data is also supporting. A higher percentage of females who had sexual intercourse for the first time at 15 to 16 years of age, 79%. So everybody can't fit in that 2, okay? Everybody can't fit in the 2 out of 10.
Right.
Okay? Everybody can't fit in the 2 out of 10. Everybody's daughter can't be at a 2 out of 10. So if you know people that 10 children, you have friends, and among them there's 10 children, 10 young ladies, 15 to 16, 8 of them are sexually active. Okay? But do not sleep on this.
I'd like to just talk about this for a second. And I'd like to just talk about, for instance, what's the big deal about talking about it? I like people to in our chat box just what's the big deal? Like, what is the and I don't want to about no taboo, because our modern society ain't much believing in taboo is those generation baby boomers that's still in the taboo stage. People over here is doing all people today are doing all kinds of stuff. And so the issues that our parents have to become more relevant and also not just relevant, but be involved in their children's lives. I didn't say directing and punishing. I'm talking about conversations. Having
Well, Dr. Miles, you know, you've talked about this before, and that is we transfer our positions to our children.
Mhm.
And if sex is introduced as a taboo, and let's face it, I know we don't want to hear it. I'm not going to use that term. If sex is introduced as a don't do it because people aren't comfortable with it, if sex is introduced as a good girls don't, and I do still think that's out there, if sex is introduced as anything other than normal, natural, appropriate at the right time, in the right circumstances, if you're telling them anything else, if you're going to your 10-year-old and saying, listen, don't, okay, first of all, you're making them more curious. So we have to be comfortable giving them the real information, and by doing that, helping them to make the right decisions about when it's appropriate.
Jackie,
We can't just say, don't do it.
I'm at the point of believing that I don't think our parents are saying don't do it. I don't think our parents are saying be careful. I don't think the parents are saying anything except I know. And what does that mean? Now,
It means you don't know.
I know what you're doing, but what does that mean?
It means you don't know.
I mean, and so there's not a time that we sit down and when we talk about this. You know, we talk about sex, we talk about girls, we talk about boys, we talk about the natural occurrence, and what I think is an appropriate time, because what I think is an appropriate time may not be what my children think is appropriate time. Are you with me? And so we have to get that understanding. And not only that, but I do think that if we have a conversation with our children, it can, and the data supports this, that it can delay their sexual activity, because at least they're educated on it. They're knowing what to expect. They're knowing what the outcome can be. And also, guess what? What are the consequences of the outcome?
And also, a lot of early sex is exploratory. So if you answered a lot of those questions and let's say provided some forms of visuals about the physical body, the development of the physical body, taking away at least some measure of curiosity helps to delay, but it also gives them the real necessary information that they're going to think about. So they're not just going to think about, is this boy or girl going to like me more or more, right? They're going to think about, am I ready emotionally? Am I attached? Are they attached to me? You're really giving them the tools to think further about sexual activity, and therefore helping them delay it.
We have a 13-year-old child, no, a 13-year-old teenager who masturbates and he ejaculates. He has no idea what that fluid is called, and he has no idea that it makes babies. So it's kind of interesting. You said, well, Dr. Miles, is it therapy? Well, the whole point I'm sharing with you is that, guess what? I get the parents' permission because the kids are so confused about a whole bunch of stuff, and it causes anxiety. They need answers. They need answers. And I'm saying, well, you're performing this self-pleasure, but you don't even know why. Or, you know, it feels good. And then you get scared because you think something is happening to you because you don't even, he doesn't even know what to call the fluid. And I'm saying,
right. And maybe it's not I mean, you know, maybe he doesn't understand the feeling as totally pleasurable in the beginning. But honestly, Dr. Miles, I have also heard those stories. I have heard, people say that, again, they did not know what was coming from their body or why. They did know that obviously there was a sensation going on, but there was just no conversation. And again, you have an opportunity, parents, to have these conversations so far ahead of the experience that the experience is not a shock. For instance,
Becky,
talking, go ahead.
But I think that when you look at our family makeup, women oftentimes don't feel comfortable talking to the boy about male anatomy and so forth. Are you with me? So, and not only that, but they don't even fully understand it from the point of just receiving it. And so they don't have brothers they can talk to. They don't have nobody, they can take the kid to. So the child is just stuck. He's just
Yeah,
stuck.
Dr. Miles, I'm gonna be
Except,
honest with you. I'm
except,
really, I'm
except,
really tired. Go ahead.
except what he learns from porn.
Right. So I'm really tired of that excuse. I'm tired of that. I'm a female. I don't know what to say. There are too many resources out there now to help you know what to say. Resources that you and your son and or daughter can explore together. Resources that you can look at ahead of time. That is an old, worn out argument. First of all, if you have a son, then you clearly know something about the male anatomy.
I
What
want
you
to,
don't know
I
about the
want,
male anatomy.
I want to challenge you on that. I'm going to challenge you on that because there's an assumption that the parents know information is out there. I'm telling you, many parents just don't know the available resources. And,
Hence, they all need to be on this broadcast.
and they are not connecting. Well, when I'm looking for a dress, I go to Amazon or what y'all go to, I can do the same resource. I'm raising a male child, put it in the browser. I'm raising a male child. What does he need to know?
First step, Dr. Miles, is understanding that you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that having that conversation early on is literally one of the most important aspects of your job as
Right.
a parent. That's the first message we want to get out. Okay. You are obligated. You owe this child a healthy sexual mentality. You owe them that, and they're not going to get it by accident. So whatever your experiences have been, think about your child in the same way you try to protect them and feed them and do all these other things. Understand that their sexual mental health is a big part of their life and can save their life. So that's number one. After that, Dr. Miles, let's face it, we're resilient. When we need to get something done and we know we need to get it done, we find resources. So in that regard, I would say the problem is that we're not owning that this is important. It's a priority, and I got to find a way.
I agree. I agree.
Find a way.
But see, the thing about it, when people ask us, why does we keep talking about this? And I'm keep running
because we keep seeing it, and because it's not a topic that goes away.
Yeah, I keep running into it. I'm saying, well, I want to bring this to the public's attention. I want to bring it to your attention that if you know someone who has a teen, be it male or female, if you have cousins, if you have children,
if you have siblings, nieces and nephews, who have children,
feel comfortable in having a conversation, because really the conversation is not really for you. It's for you to bring some information that's going to protect, not the word protect, that's going to educate your teen or your child for the rest of their life. And they won't grow up saying, oh, I didn't know.
Didn't know. Right. And so I'm pushing the envelope. You need to call all your siblings, okay, and your cousins that are your age, the ones that you know have children. And you need to say, hey, have you talked to your kids about sex? Because I was just on this podcast, and trust me, if they're over 5, they need, you need to be having that conversation, right? Let's start saving some children early on. Let's start creating, children who are mentally healthy about their sexuality and not just, their clothing or how they look. Let's be part of the change that is needed where this is concerned.
But I think it's also important that, and these are adults on this broadcast. I'm not, when parents say, oh, when you get ready to fuck, I'm just saying, like, okay, does he understand what that means? Because you called him that the other day. So I said be relevant, but I'm not saying don't be derogatory, and don't be whereas a child is afraid to even think about it. He or she gets anxiety because you so hyped about it. And so my comment said it has to be a calm conversation. And I said, whatever the words the kids are using, you want to use that and then explain what it's really called.
Yes, I wanted to interject that.
Yeah,
and that's also part of it being a healthy experience. Having sex, people, is what it's called. Having sex, oral sex, intercourse, having sex. It's what it
masturbation,
is.
all of it.
Babies are made from sex. Sexually transmitted.
Because it's kind of interesting. The kids think you don't know about it. And my question was, why do you think I don't know about how you think you got here?
And how does that always happen? Again, that's something that we are perpetuating in society. This idea that the same people who had sex to create you don't know what sex is. Like, it's insane. But it means we're not doing a good job of making healthy sexuality a normal thing in our families. You know, as a mother, do I not want my children to see me as a sexual being? Well, I mean, you're here. Clearly.
You know what's interesting? It's, we talked about, the foundation for this and what the data says. And I'm going to get into now, like why parents don't talk about it. And I tell you, I think one of the main reasons, because they're not sure how to talk about it or approach it. And they only want to talk about it when they got a suspicion.
Right. And that, if you think about that, that is part of the mental unwellness that is being transferred. When you only want to talk about it because you think they're sexually active, that should be a red flag for you, because you should have already had that conversation. By the time your child is sexually active, they should already be coming to you saying, I'm thinking about this. And maybe they won't be that open, but in an ideal environment, they would be.
But you should be that open.
But you should be that open.
Jackie,
and Dr. Miles, again, I don't know what it's going to take. I hope the parents, the listeners will, because I think many of our listeners are actually educated, but I just hope they'll reach out to the people they know who need this information. And again, say, we're not joking. If you're not comfortable having that conversation,
let's be clear.
Come on with us.
Educated, we don't mean academically. We mean that you've searched out information.
Yes.
Because you don't have to have a college degree to talk about sexuality and sex.
Right. And I'm looking at some of the reasons they don't have it. Not comfortable with the talk. No one ever taught them. You know what? It's a whole lot of things you've done that you weren't comfortable with. You learned how to wear straight leg pants, and that wasn't part of your experience either. You learned how to wear skinny jeans, and you did all manner of things. You got degrees. So guess what? Get in front of a camera and have a conversation. Record yourself so you can see how you look, sound, whatever. Practice, do what you need to do, but understand that your children, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, your grandchildren, they need you to be sexually healthy so they can be sexually healthy.
I would say, please don't start it out with, because when I was your age, I was hitting everything. Now, that ain't quite the way to do it. Don't do that.
Miles, I was hitting.
No, a lot of people started with.
Unfortunately, yes.
You need what I did when I was young, because I know what you're going through, because I was there. No, that's not quite the way. Because also, you shouldn't be sharing what you did. Are you with me? So the key is, don't use yourself as an example. Just Jackie said, feel comfortable. Jackie, you recall last week we talked about the teen sleepovers.
Oh, and yeah. You want to let them sexual activity,
but you ain't even had the sex talk.
Right.
All right, you can keep going.
Let's see. Parents, talk early and often. You don't have to fit everything into one conversation. It really should be ongoing. I mean, by the time your teenager is approaching 16 or 16, 15, you should be saying, are you dating? Are you seeing anyone? Are you at a point? Are you thinking about being sexually active? Is it common among your peers? And by that time, they shouldn't be shying away from you in that conversation.
I'm going to coin some terms, and I'm not sure they're already out there. But one is, you need to be sexually literate and sexually competent.
Sexually literate, yes. Know the terminology, yes.
And sexually competent. So parents, I'm giving y'all something to start out with. We're going to have this conversation so you can be sexually literate. That means you know the words, you know the language, and you understand it, and you've processed it.
And those conversations, as we said early on, they don't just include the fear factors. They should include the beautiful parts, but a full conversation helps them make better decisions. They do need to know the risk, not in a scary situation, but in an educated, perspective and a protective perspective. A lot of these kids don't know, and they find out too late.
But as we're doing this, it should not be an investigatory, Now, when the last time you been with somebody, like have you ever done it before?
Yeah, don't ask the personal
I just
questions.
feel to you. I'm
Create
telling
the
you
environment where it's offered.
that
Yeah,
that's
come on.
not the approach. The approach has to be where it's a calm environment and it's also confidential. You can't have it in the kitchen while you're cooking and everybody else coming in tasting the food. It can't occur that way. It needs to occur in a quiet, a calm place. Because guess what? As we're agreeing, Jackie, it's a very serious conversation.
It is. It's important and it's serious. And we don't mean serious as in heavy, but we mean you need to pay attention to what you're saying and you need to pay attention to what they're saying. So serious in the regard that you can't be half listening.
I almost want to put in the category of life and death. It's a life and death conversation.
Well, it fits there, Dr. Miles, because we do know that, you know, sex can kill.
Right.
Sex can be deadly.
Some other reason why parents don't have a conversation. I can give you one.
I don't even want to talk about one of them.
God take care of it.
We're going to put it out there and then we're going to say, you have misapplied it. Religion. If you are using religion as a reason not to have a conversation with your child, then you do not understand the Bible.
Because what? Because sex is wrong. Because the Bible said it.
Dr. Miles, I do not want to laugh about this. This is serious.
I'm not.
If you are using religion as a reason to not talk to your young people in your care, in your circle about sex, then you clearly do not understand the Bible.
But check this out, though. Check this.
Because
scenario.
one of my favorite verses says there's a time and place for everything. Ecclesiastes 3:1.
Oh,
that
Lord.
includes this.
Oh, Lord, you went there.
Every child is born.
You went there.
Conceived. So,
But I think part of the conversation with the child also is realize that you are human. For instance, here you are saying now, you can't be having no premarital sex. It's just wrong. But guess what? Child was born when you were 16. And so if you go that route, you need to have some conversations.
Yeah. I'm going to put this out. Give your children the information. Be as thorough as you can. Be as open as you can. From there, they will make their own decisions, period. They're going to make their own decisions. You can attempt to impose your views as I think people consider that normal. Of course, I'm going to share my views with my child. You can do that. But that your child has an entire other world of influence that in one of our other broadcasts, we shared is stronger than you. It's called peer pressure.
Yeah, very much.
Okay, so you do better to just inform and be there.
But I think Jackie, it's also important that when parents have that conversation, we don't use it as a rod to beat them with. You're on the phone. I done told you about that sex stuff. I heard you. I mean, I just don't get it. Oh, you ain't clean your room up. Now I'm telling you, and you want to have sex. But this is real. No, serious. This is real. And so
right, sex is not a belt. It's not a weapon to just smash over the child's head when you feel like it.
The sex conversation has become a weaponized. I mean, so the point is, you want to talk to them, but don't talk about it often. Don't keep talking about it. Don't keep bringing it up.
Dr. Miles, I want to recommend this based on what you're saying. I want to recommend that our adults, especially those who are uncomfortable, get together in an adult circle. Get your 3 or 4 of your friends together. And you all talk about it first. And you all practice on it.
That's a good idea.
And you all just say, how are we feeling about this? And what do we think? Because you first need to be aware of your own feelings. Or otherwise, those things will be coming out of your mouth before you even realize it. Okay? So get with some of your friends that you feel comfortable talking about sex with and say, listen, folks, I'm getting ready to have that conversation with my son or my daughter, and I'm really not sure. Like, what are your views on sex, and what have you thought about it, and what do y'all think?
I have an idea. Not just with friends, but get with other people who have children your age and say, like, y'all, let's get together. Because we need to talk to our children.
Yeah.
So if you got a 10-year-old, 15, let's get together on Saturday night versus going out to the club. And let's talk about how we're going
club.
to teach these children some stuff.
Yeah, get together. That's another great idea. How about the parents of the football team get together, have some meetings, and talk about how you all are going to roll that out. That way, they're going to be hearing the same thing from their peers because you all have already, you know,
Exactly.
had a conversation, and they're all going to be hearing the same thing. That will go a long way. How about the parents for the cheerleading, the cheerleading squad
Excellent.
get together one night and say, hey, folks, how do we want to talk about this? And I'm not talking about the high school cheerleading squad. I'm talking about the elementary cheerleading squad. Yes, I am. Okay, so get together and determine. And that way now you've got a support group.
Let's use your word. It has to be intentional. And we're going to use the groups you just talked about. So the cheerleading squad, guess what? We're going to have a meeting for every squad, every quarter, to talk about this because they need it. For the football team, part of your coaching strategy is we're going to have a conversation about this. So in other words, it has to be intentional, not talking about, I'm teaching about the birds and the bees. I'm really teaching them how to survive. But Jackie, we have some comments and our time is running on. I think I'm going to reach this. It says, Pusherman 55. I think if I can get this right here. They say, I can admit my parents never spoke to me about sex. I learned it in school and I spoke to the teacher about it. I'm going to go on. Okay, let's see if there's more to that.
And I'm going to comment on that while you're looking because
okay, go on.
We had sex ed in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
We had sex education. I remember people looking around when penis and vagina and menstruation was brought up. But guess what? We still heard it. We were curious. We learned. It helped us cross a bridge.
Right.
Right. Some of us were fortunate enough to have these conversations at home. You know, one of those early conversations, Dr. Miles, the girls and their periods. Girls are embarrassed to go into a store and buy tampons and Tampax and pads. That's a very good time to say, listen, this is a very normal biological experience for everyone. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. You shouldn't be ashamed to go buy it. I'm not ashamed. Let's go. Okay?
Yep.
So many opportunities to make this a normal part of being a person and of growing up.
Yeah, I want Pusherman 55 to tell me, what did the teacher say? When you went to the teacher, what did the teacher say?
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that, you know, this is, again, maybe sex ed, which is what made me think about that in a class. But that would be interesting.
Let's keep addressing some things that parents can do, wise, and something they can do to make it a little bit more easier for themselves. One thing they can do, listen carefully to their children.
That's one I was just about to pick up. And I want to sit on it for a second, okay? Listen carefully would sometimes require you not responding right away.
Right.
I mean, don't just hear the words, hear what's behind it.
Mm-hmm. Try
to understand the angle and the perspective it's coming from. Again, some of us are so fearful that every question is, can I have sex? That we're automatically saying no before we actually hear what they're saying.
I think the other part is you can't calm the child if you're nervous.
And I'm going to put this out there, and I think we could have a whole workshop on this. Should you tell your child, and this is loaded, I'm going to tell you now. Should a parent be telling their child when or when not to have sex? And I'm going to go ahead and say it's loaded by everything we've been talking about tonight. If you have been having conversations at the appropriate times early on, are you the one to tell them when they should be sexually active? Because I think doing that, again, is why we avoid conversations.
Well, Jack, I think the sort of answer is you'll know when it's time. You'll know. Because you can't say, oh, you can start at 10, you can start at 15, or you start at 18. Oh,
but let's face it, some parents don't want to ever tell them what age is okay. And so really what we're saying is by informing them,
right?
You know, I don't want to say you're giving yourself an out because you shouldn't be looking for an out, but you are helping them become the person that they need to make their own decision.
They'll know.
And it'll be an informed one and probably one that you'll be very proud of. Yeah, sex ed in 6th grade.
Well, Jackie,
Very open.
the data supports that when parents talk to their children about sex, it delays the child from having sex because they are aware. And they're not trying to, as you said before, they're not trying to figure out no answers. They
Yep.
ain't trying to experiment because they've already been told.
Right.
Now, if they go further, it is a conscious decision they made,
Mm-hmm.
which, guess what? It's out of your hands.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yep.
I'm sorry, go on.
Again, just supporting that, starting chats before it's too late, 10 or 11 or when you feel is appropriate. Now, I'm going to jump out here and say our data says, and this is my data is going back probably a decade or more.
Right.
I'm going to say 10's a little late.
Jackie, I think it's too late too. I really do.
I think 10's a little late. I think we need to start, we need to start talking about body parts and their real names, 5, 6.
Development. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, development, vagina, body reactions, all of that.
Feelings, emotions, all of that.
Feelings, emotions, the idea of dating, boyfriend, girlfriend, liking people. You know, kids call themselves liking each other in first grade.
I have a situation for you. I have a 7-year-old girl who thinks she's in love with another 7-year-old girl.
Okay.
And tells her mother, we're going to get married. Do you have a problem with that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, she's only 7.
Right. And the parents probably freaking out.
We're sort of, in counseling. So the whole thing is, I'm saying, where did this come from? And sort of it came, I think some of it came from the child's need to be loved. Even though the mother showers with love, but just, this thing of feeling attached, the thing that somebody else outside the family likes me and feels I'm worthy.
Crosses over into normal social, emotional needs.
Our children, and show our children, guess what? That you got the emotional love you need here. We're here. So they'll have to seek it from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But the 7-year-old already is thinking that she's in love with another girl.
Mm-hmm. And you all think they're not talking about sex. She's talking about marriage. Maybe that makes you feel good because she at least wants to get married. I mean, come on. So they're telling us, and then let's talk about where they get this from, because Dr. Miles, they miss this. You let your little girls watch Snow White. Okay? The prince comes to get her. He kisses her, and they live happily ever after. There's not a Disney story out there that doesn't end in a man with a woman. And they're watching that at 3. And you want to know why they're thinking about relationships at 5? Because you put it in front of them.
Well, Jackie, again, I'm going to have to stop for a second. I keep saying we're going to stop, but you brought up something that I'm doing. I'm actually looking at, and I heard other psychologists talk about, and we talked about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And the issue is you got 7 men who are around this little girl, and she's like kidnapped. I hope that's the story. But the point was that these Disney worlds are teaching about domestic violence and rape and make it okay.
I'm not doing that. Yes. And they're teaching little girls that they need to be selected by men, and a whole lot of other things. We're not here to put them down. It's the absence of parenting that makes those things inappropriate.
Jackie, guess what?
You do need to be careful about early messages.
Jackie, you just talk so much in these broadcasts. I mean, you talk too long, first of all. And guess what? Our time has run out. So I want you, Jackie, I want you to start wrap it up for us. Like, if you have to tell parents something about this real talk, sex talk, what would you tell them?
Here it is. It's in print, okay? Start chatting before it's too late. Don't be judgmental. Make sure you have their full attention. Be honest about the tough topics, and don't give TMI. Don't talk about your past. Don't give too much information. That is how I would definitely sum up the importance and elements of having this conversation with your children.
Hey, Jackie, it's always great having you on with us. It's been another wonderful week of Let's Talk About It. I hope our audience is really enjoying the conversations. And guess what? Next week's topic is labels. And I keep saying I wish we can get rid of them because the labels are creating mental health issues. Anyway, another story. But next week, I think about labels and the issues that they're causing. All right. So what
It's going to
happened?
be another loaded one, Dr. Miles.
Another exactly
You
another.
guys join us and bring some friends. These topics are getting better and better, and we know that people understand their importance. We want to thank you all for being on. It is always amazing, and we really thank you for your comments tonight. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Pusherman.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
And I want to see donations from y'all. Okay. See you next week. Jackie, it's been wonderful. Have a wonderful rest of the week. And to
Likewise, Dr. Miles.
our Facebook fans and our Instagram, hey, folk, we love y'all. Be blessed.
Good night, everyone.